Well, now, for Margaret Thatcher, it was the poll tax. For Tony Blair, the Iraq war. When prime ministers find they've suddenly run out of tarmac, it tends to be for something profound and worthy. Not so Boris Johnson. His Waterloo may be Peppa Pig world, and that strangest of speeches. Is this the beginning of the end for Boris? Well, perhaps, but there are still plenty of voters for whom there are worse things than failing to treat business leaders with the respect they think they deserve. And for them, it's not that Boris can do no wrong, rather that he got one very big thing right, namely Brexit, and they haven't forgotten that, at least not yet. So, before we write Boris off, consider this. What if, against all the prevailing wisdom, in spite of all the missteps and mistakes and misadventures, he pulls off another unexpected victory? What if he might soon be able to point to COVID as evidence of his, wait for it, competence? Competence. Not a word we necessarily associate with the Prime Minister, this Prime Minister, but in recent weeks, a dawning reality perhaps, it may have started to emerge that number 10, so lamentable in those early skirmishes with coronavirus, actually and latterly made good call after good call, even as our neighbours got things irrevocably wrong. Well, today, for instance, as Prince Charles visited a new £1 billion AstraZeneca research centre, the pharmaceutical giant's boss was explaining that the Oxford jab was probably one reason why Britain was not facing a fourth wave of COVID. By stimulating T cells, it gives older people longer-lasting protection. This is the vaccine that was rubbished, you'll remember, by, amongst others, Emmanuel Macron as quasi-effective and half-heartedly embraced by Germany. It turns out it works a treat. But that initial scepticism left a mark. Only 67 million doses of the Oxford vaccine have been used on the continent, as opposed to 440 million Pfizer jabs. And having heard our vaccine bad-mouthed, some Europeans are reluctant to view any vaccine in a good light. In Austria, where the government has taken the outrageous decision to make jabs compulsory from February the 1st, only two-thirds of people have been jabbed. But it's not just that Britain's vaccine may have ended up being a world beater by pushing ahead with Freedom Day in July. England allowed the virus to let rip. Cases soared over the warmer months when the NHS was less busy. We effectively front-loaded our infection caseload, brought the exit wave forward and bolstered immunity as winter nears. All that natural immunity may be one reason why other parts of the UK, comparatively, are doing less well. Today, for instance, Nicola Sturgeon announced an extension of a vaccine scheme, and in Northern Ireland there was new guidance on working from home. And then there's Britain's booster programme. About 350,000 supplementary shots are being administered every day. Yesterday we heard that the UK could be the first country in the world where COVID is no longer viewed as a pandemic but endemic, in other words, a potentially deadly but manageable disease like flu. If there's one thing we've come to learn about COVID, it's this. It is folly to assume that just because a country's doing well at one stage, it will throw out the course of a long rolling crisis. New Zealand, for instance, held up as a paragon of coronavirus management this time last year, is now threatening to hunt down unvaccinated citizens. Have a look.
So everyone will be able to get a vaccine between now and the end of the year. But of course, and I want every New Zealander to come forward, but human behaviour suggests that there will be some people that we have to actually really go out and look for, and some of that may spill into next year. But our commitment is everyone will have the opportunity to get the vaccine by the end of the year. Everyone will, but I can't say that, that we're not going to have some hesitant people or some people who just haven't come forward that we don't have to go out and find next year.
Go out and find. Of course, the COVID wheel of fate may yet turn full circle, but right now it feels like the British model is working. It's a model that's allowed our people freedoms denied to the citizens of comparable countries where rights we take for granted are now denied, it seems. Imagine the uproar here if, as Vienna now proposes, people were forced to submit to a compulsory medical procedure. How much credit does Boris Johnson deserve for all this? Well, it may have been Whitty and Valence who agreed to let the virus rip this summer. It may have been Professor Sarah Gilbert who helped create what really was a world-beating vaccine at Oxford University. But as the Prime Minister always said, the buck stops with politicians. He took the brickbats when things went badly. Perhaps he now deserves a few bouquets when things are going better. Is this why he fell into a hole of his own making yesterday? Because it doesn't matter if the media think he's a buffoon, it doesn't matter if columnists think he's a clown, or that business leaders think he's treating them with contempt. What matters is the big stuff. What matters is that Number 10 can now say, with some grounds, we have COVID on the run. That's tonight's Brazier Angle.